Welcome back. So while I'm still learning more about how to tune this engine, doing some more webinars and things like that, I decided to do another little test here. So I've stuck a bunch of wool on the bottom side of the wing here, similar to how I did it on the model way back when. And the goal here is to see what kind of turbulence this big wheel well is creating there when you're going down the runway. So here I'm just getting sorted out to taxi the aircraft out and take it down the runway, and ultimately, determine whether or not I need to close up the bottom of that wheel well, because if it's creating really bad turbulence, then obviously that's going to create drag, and don't really want to have unnecessary drag, at least not for the first flights if you can avoid it. And as you can see, I'm experimenting with getting the audio into one of my Sony cameras here, and still got to dial in the gain on that, and I promise it will get better as the videos progress. But here I'm just going to taxi across to the other side of the runway.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta crossing 23, Cherokee.
And it's been pretty hot here again this week, pretty much every day while I've been out, around about 90 degrees or more. So fortunately, when I'm taxiing around here, I've got the AC working, and that's working well now, so I'm happy with that. But when I've been doing ramp runs with the engine, powering up and powering down on the ramp there, I just have the doors open. So with the doors open, it's pointless having the AC on. So here I am. Taxi down to the end there, or not quite the end, but this time using runway 23. The last few videos you've seen I've been using the other direction, runway 5. So I didn't go all the way to the end because that's sort of going down the hill a little bit, and it wasn't necessary. What I'm trying to do here is just bring it up to about 60 miles an hour. And I've got a camera mounted right down by the wheel there, looking straight up at the underside of the wing that you'll see here in a second. And I want you guys to sort of pipe in here on the comments and let me know what you think in terms of whether or not I've got a problem that I need to solve with respect to how much turbulence this creates. So I'll let you have a look at this right now. So you can see there in the wheel well, there's a lot of swirling going around. It's actually creating like a whirlpool. But behind the wheel well, it doesn't look that bad actually. But then right at the end, when I release or take the power off, I pull up on the nose, and you can see there's spillover there into, or behind the wheel well there. But anyway, you guys pipe in there and tell me if you think that I've got a big turbulence problem there that's going to create a bunch of drag. It doesn't look too bad right now. I'm going to do another test and see, but I could definitely tell when I lifted the nose up that swirling air was spilling out. Yeah, the swirling air was spilling out onto the lower surface of the wing there behind the wheel well. So anyway, decent test. I don't think it's that bad really, but anyway, you guys chime in. It's not that difficult to cover that up for the first flight test, because I can use the lower door as part of it, and then just seal the rest with just some rigid thin board or something like that. Wouldn't be that difficult. So here what I'm doing now is just setting up on the ramp here, so I can do some more static runs there and work on tuning the engine a little more. And for those of you who suggested that I just call up a tuner and have them come by and tune it for me, well, first of all, there's hardly anybody in the country that's an expert on tuning diesels, and the guys that are out there are just booked up solid, and you can't just get them to come by and check things out, and doing things remotely is a bit difficult as well. So I'd rather learn it myself and then be able to tune it. So that's what I'm going to do. This is what my little telltales there look like after the run. So the ones that were swirling around the most, I guess, got sort of a little bit shredded at the ends, or a little bit untwisted. But overall, I think that was a success. I'm kind of the opinion that it's not a really bad problem, but I'd like to see what it looks like when there's more angle of attack. Alright, so one of the things I've done as well this week is I've found these, Motec has a series of 9 videos here, which, you know, some of them are over an hour long, for showing you how to, you know, use their software to tune a diesel. So similar to that other one that I did over the weekend. And I went through all these in the last day and been super helpful. I really have a good understanding of what's going on right now and how I need to tune it. And they actually walk you through, the guy, Pete is his name, good name. He walks you through all the different processes for starting from scratch with a new setup on an engine, all the way through tuning and timing and everything like that. So I really have a good grasp on it right now, and it's going to allow me to get in there and get this thing tuned the way it needs to be. And if you guys are interested in watching some of these videos, I've linked them in the description of this video below. And pardon the audio here.
Alright, so this is a little bit of a test from the cabin here of the new audio thing. I've got myself a H1N handy recorder here, I'll show you. This little guy. So what this guy is doing is taking the audio coming out of the headset there, taking it on the line in, then I can adjust the volume on it, and then it's sending it over to the Sony camera there so I can capture it there and not have to blend it in later on the video. And it's just a matter of me dialing this in and getting the levels right. And unfortunately it only records on one channel, so I have to split it back to 2 in editing. But hopefully I'll get this dialed in with the right volume eventually. So this is at volume 2 right now, and this is at volume 2.1, oh sorry, 2.5. I think, yeah, I think volume 2 is about right. So we'll give that a try and see. Anyway, I just spent the last hour and a half or 2 hours tuning or trying to tune, and I've got a problem right now when I try and push the fuel pump over 120 megapascals, the high pressure fuel pump. It just doesn't want to work, or I'm not sure if that's exactly what the cause is, but that's where I'm getting to. So I've got to go back and look at the log some more and see if I can find out what's causing that, and maybe hit up some other people at Motec or somebody else, or maybe hit up Lowe's again and see if he has some more suggestions. It's a bit frustrating because I know exactly what to do now with the tune after watching all these videos that Motec put out in the last 24 hours. But now I can't really do anything with it because I just can't push the fuel pressure to where it needs to go. So until I figure this out, I can't get the power. But the good news is, if I get that sorted out, there's a lot more power, probably maybe as much as 25% more power available from what I thought before. Anyway, I'm going to taxi back and go and cool down for a little bit. So hopefully I can get this figured out and we can move on to the next problem. So, alright, let's see if we can get out of here.
So obviously I need to bring those levels down a little bit. They're over modulating, and I've kind of dialed that in now on my little handy recorder. Unfortunately that Sony camera doesn't allow you to adjust the gain of the mic there, and because I'm feeding a line into it rather than a mic into it, it's always over modulated. But anyway, that's why I've got the handy recorder there to act as the middleman. So I'll get that dialed in for the next one.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta crossing runway 5 at midfield, Cherokee.
And it turns out that after I left there this afternoon and went and sat in some air conditioning and had time to look through all the logs and that, I got a better understanding of what was causing this problem with the high pressure fuel pump, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm actually getting pretty excited to see of what sort of performance I can do, or gain out of the whole engine setup. Because as I said before, I was only able to put in 95, or it was only 95 kilopascals before, or megapascals.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, clear runway 5, Cherokee.
And it turns out I can run, close to 200 megapascals, so double the pressure. I should be able to get like a major gain in power once this is all tuned up, probably 25%, maybe even a little more, which is super exciting. Okay, so here's the logs, and I had 2 looks at this, and this is the first look. So here's the runs that I did this morning, all those peaks, different runs, and there's big pauses in between them, but I only just captured just the runs themselves. So zooming in on this particular one here, and I've managed to pull some different data elements out to find where the problem is. So looking here, this particular run there, I'll zoom in a little closer on there. You can see I've got the throttle there set, and it sort of flat lines, or I kept it sort of even there. So as I brought the throttle up there to 44%, and the engine RPM's 2796, I left the throttle at the same position. But if you look at the RPM along the top there, as I move this along, the RPM basically peaks out at about 2809, and then it just starts to sort of drop off there, and you can see in the chart how it's sort of going along. And if you look in there, there's this error reporting there from the fuel pump of in this particular spot there, 5.5 megapascals. And so there's a PID control going on here with a feed forward, and I'm not sure if you understand how all that works. I'm just sort of learning it myself. But basically it's trying to chase a certain value that's been aimed at, and it's not doing a very good job right now. And so these numbers here, that's the aim, and also what the actual value is for the fuel pressure, that 112 and 117. And it's off by 5 at that point, which is starting to get like a long ways off. Anyway, so I got to figure out what's going on with that, and that's what my first look was at. But anyway, if you look at the rest of these numbers, everything's looking pretty good there, in terms of nothing getting too hot or anything like that. And you see I've got this lambda estimate in there now, and there's my timing, so the timing's looking good. Everything's sort of ending there before right at top dead center on the main injection. And this is my second look at it a little bit later in the day, after I spent some time editing video, and you can see this red line here. It just really stands out there in the middle there. It's basically a big old red flag of something crazy is going on there. And it turns out what's happening is the software is trying to request a certain amount of fuel pressure from the fuel pump, and then the fuel pump all of a sudden gives a little bit more than what's being expected. And what's happened is the software is supposed to basically sort of chase it down and be okay with it, and just respond to the fact that it came back with a higher value or whatever. But what it does instead is it realizes there's a spike, and so it starts reducing the value. And as I step through here, you'll see what's going on here. That the aim is the blue number there, and so it starts reducing the value. Of course, then it ends up reducing it too much, and it kind of gets itself stuck in a downward slope where it just keeps reducing. And even though I've got the throttle set at the same value, it just basically is reinforcing its actions and just keeps going down and down and down. And so ultimately, the engine just starts losing RPM and power, even though I've got the throttle just set constant. So what I need to do is I need to adjust the feed forward here and get that more dialed in, a little bit higher percentage there, and then probably come back and adjust the proportional, the integral, and the derivative values there of the PID controller, and get it to not do this, not have so much of an error. So that's going to be my fun little job over the weekend, and hopefully that'll sort everything out, and I'll be able to get on with tuning. So that's my update for this week. Thanks again for watching, and tune in again on Tuesday and see where I'm at.